Good morning, Year 7. Hope you're having a great day, and today we're going to have a look at an introduction to functions. So what is a function? Well, a function is something that connects two things together. If we have something like this, which is a function machine, if we have an input of 5, so that's the number that's going into the function machine, and we get 10 out, what could we have done to the 5 to get to 10? Well, we could have multiplied it by 2. 5 multiplied by 2 gives 10, and that is known as our function. However, is that the only way that we can get from 5 to 10? Can you think of another? Yep, that's right. We could have added 5. So our function could also have been plus 5. So this means that in order to identify a function, we need to have more than one input and output to check. So we need more than one input and output in order to identify the function. Often we're given a table with inputs and outputs, such as this, and we can also be given the function over that table. Now we can write it plainly by saying multiplied by 3. You'll notice that all of the inputs are multiplied by 3 to get the output. Or we can use proper function notation, which you don't need to worry about too much at the moment, but it would look like this, where a function of x, which is any number, remember, variable, is equal to 3 times that variable. So, time for you to have a go. Can you work out the function for the following tables? Look carefully at the numbers. Remember, the function must apply to every input and output in the table. Pause the video and then you can move on to check your answers. And here are your answers. Note, in the third table, where the function was x squared, you can see that 2 of our outputs are the same, and this can be true at any time. But our inputs must have a direct link to the output, and it must be the same for every input and output. So if we're given a function and the input, then we can work out what the output is, just like on our machine. So here's a table with some inputs, and here is our function, which is plus 2. So we can see that if our function is plus 2 and we have an input of 2, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. And so on for the rest of the table. We have 3 plus 2 is equal to 5. 4 plus 2 is equal to 6. And 32 plus 2 is equal to 34. So for any input, any variable, we will get an output of that variable plus 2. So have a go. Find the outputs for the following functions. And here are your tables. Pause the video, and when you're ready to move on, you can check your answers. And here are your answers. Check your work and self-mark, please. And then we'll move on. So we can also be given the function and the output. Now this is where it's a bit more interesting. So here's a table with an output, and here is our function. Now before we have our function of plus 2, and if we had our input, we could work out the output by adding on that 2 to the input. Now here we need to perform the inverse operation. So that means that we need to subtract 2 from our output to find our input. So, for example, with the number 3, we subtract 2 and we get 1. And so on for the rest of the table. 6, we subtract 2, we will get 4. 7, we subtract 2, we will get 5. 45, subtract 2, we will get 43. So we're using that inverse operation of our function. Here's 3 for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to move on, then you can restart the video. Remember, you can use your little boxes to act as a function machine. Show you're working that way. And here are your answers. Check your work and self-mark, please. And then we can move on to the last couple of slides. So we've been using numbers as our inputs and outputs, but it doesn't always need to be just numbers. Here's our function machine. If we had a table here, like this one, where we have an input and an output, can you have a think as to what you think the function might be? What is the link between the input and the output? You're right, it's the number of sides. So our function in this case is number of sides. So have a go about thinking up some of your own functions and be creative. Show me a couple of them in your working and have a good day.